And I was like, remember when you didn't think I was right for the role? But I think I wasn't right for the role at that time. I think that there was still life to live and there were still lessons to learn. And so whenever my friends are like, well, why can't I just be doing this role? Or why can't I get this part? Why does that person always get the part over me? And I always just say, it's just not your turn. It's just someone else has been waiting in line longer. Yeah. And so it's their turn to have the role. And then that makes it closer to you getting the role because now you're getting closer to the front of the line. Yeah. So that's it's easy to say, but it's not easy to do.
Yeah, that's true.
But I'm working on it. It's a constant daily, I'm working at it.
So you mentioned getting a lot of no's during your Elsa journey and also to play the standby for Elphaba. Can you talk to us a little bit about that experience working at such an amazing musical, which is, for me, is one of my favorites. I have seen it 15 times already, and I love it. I resonate with every single song, with every single character. I just think that everything on stage is so beautiful and well performed, and everything is well put together. How was your experience playing that important and iconic role that has been played for the last 15 years by amazing women, including Idina Menzel and now Jessica Voss, who's on Broadway? And she's starting being a standby for Elphaba, then getting the lead role being Elphaba on the Wicked National Tour, and then stepping into the main role on Broadway. So how was that experience? Tell us a little bit more about how was that experience for Chelsea Emma Franko.
It was a little bit of exciting and a little bit of terrifying. When you think about all of the women that have played the role, it's daunting because there's so many great names that have donned that Elfie hat, and I think that that can be intimidating. I think I went in feeling more excited than anything and just wanting to learn. And I always say, as long as I'm learning, I don't have to go anywhere else. But the moment I stop learning, it's time to move on. I didn't leave Wicked because I wasn't learning anything anymore. I was still learning everything every single day. But there are things that I can learn somewhere else, I think, now. Yes. And when I look back over the entire time I was with Wicked, I think I feel mostly just pride, just because there were so many twists and turns that were thrown at me, and there were so many things that could have gone terribly wrong. But somehow, by the grace of God, I think that they all were exactly the way that they were supposed to be. And one of my castmates has this saying, like, everything happens for a reason, and I really, truly believe that. I think Elphaba challenged me differently than I've ever been challenged. The company challenged me differently than I have ever been challenged. Working with those actors on that stage forced me to really dig deep. Working with the stage managers and with our directors and music directors, I think they all held me at a higher, they forced me to jump higher than I thought I was capable of. And that's the thing, is that when someone else sees something in you that you can't see yourself, it's best to just follow them, and just trust that they know what's going on. And I really do think that everyone there knows what's going on, and they are just wanting the best out of you, and they know that you can rise to the occasion. And I think because I came right off of Frozen, I felt very confident going in. Yes. But it wasn't until like about 3 to 6 months later on tour that I started feeling very overwhelmed and very scared. Just because, those normal self-doubts that you get as an actor come around, especially in a role when as the standby, you don't go on every single day, but the show goes on every single day. And so it's hard to sit back and watch your friends do the show that you love so much, because all I love to do is perform. And I just want to be out there. But it wasn't my turn to be performing every single day. It was someone else's turn. And knowing your place and knowing your role, whether it be the role that you play on stage or the role that you play backstage, is important. And I think that Wicked really taught me those things, and it taught me to listen. I could just go down the list of things, but it was life-changing for sure. I think that this will be, I used to think that Frozen was going to be the catalyst where I go, well, that's where it all began. But I feel like Wicked probably is going to be that, just because I said on my last day, like, there will never be another job that will be this difficult for me. Because I was learning so many things all at the same time. I had never been a union actor, so I got my equity card with Wicked. Mm-hmm. I had never stood by. I had never been on tour. I had never carried a show as big as Wicked.
Yes.
And I had, I was used to doing the show and being the person people come to see, and that's not an easy thing to give up, but it was necessary for the job. So I'm just really proud, I think, of the whole journey.
How does that role, Elphaba, resonates with you?
I think that Elphaba taught me most to stand up for what you believe in, and so that's probably what will resonate. Standing up for the underdog, standing up for yourself, first and foremost, but also for the people that can't stand up for them. That through line throughout her story is really it's ingrained deep within me. That's something I think I started learning from a young age with my mom, teaching me that we can't. Not everybody has the opportunity to speak for themselves, and so we have to give them a voice.
Yes.
And Elphaba that's all she wants. And I think, giving over to the fact that things will not always end up the way that you imagine them will constantly be playing in my head, and has constantly been playing in my head even before Wicked. Because Elphaba's story doesn't end up exactly how she intended it to end up, but it still ends up with redemption, which is a big thing for me in my world. So I think that was something that I was really happy to have, like a role that advocated for those things.
You mentioned something really interesting when you were talking about your pathway in Wicked National Tour, that you were given several twists and turns. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and go in depth a little bit more so the audience can know what did Chelsea had to go through? Because there's a lot of people that are dreaming to have that role, even for one night maybe, to maybe go ahead and defy gravity just once. And you got the chance to do it, I don't know how many times, and we can talk about that later. But what can you tell those people where those twists and turns, and how Chelsea made it to defy gravity? Maybe not every night, but a few nights for 14 months, which is a lot of time.
Yeah. So a lot of the main twists and turns that a standby goes through is the feeling... the feeling of not being a part of the cast, but still being very a part of the cast. The thing I always used to laugh about is I don't really see anyone when the show's going on. If I'm not on for Elphaba, I don't see anyone. And then if I'm on for Elphaba, I barely see people, but they're all being mean to me. Because on stage, everyone's pretty much a bully to Elphaba. So it was very isolating. And I'm an only child, so I understand what it means to have alone time.
Yes.
And I'm an introvert, but I'm an outgoing introvert. So I handle being alone very well, but it's different when you are on the road and you are in a hotel room and you know that at any moment you might be getting a phone call saying you're going on, and so you can't stay out late, you can't eat bad, you need to make sure that you get exercise and good sleep, because you might have to be playing the hardest role written for a female ever in the morning. Yes. Or even in a few minutes. And the last minute, being thrown on the last minute, there was one time where I literally walked in the door 4 minutes until half hour, which is our call time. And I signed in my name and started walking to my standby dressing room. And over the intercom, it said, by the way, Chelsea, you're going on for Elphaba now. And I hadn't warmed up. I hadn't prepared for that. But I just had to go out and do as best as I could. And then there's the mid-show swaps where you are sitting in your dressing room, and in the middle of the show, you get that page saying, Chelsea, you're going to go on mid-show. And so you have to get green and do all those things very quickly and then run on stage and continue a performance that's already been going on for the last half hour to an hour. And then rehearsing with understudies and rehearsing hardly ever with the people that you actually get to do the show with on stage. So for a put-in, like for Elphaba, because she's the lead, all of the regular leads do the standby put-in with them. So you know what it's going to be like. But that's only one time that you actually rehearse with them. All the other times over the next 14 months that I was rehearsing with understudies, which is great for that when they go on and then you go on, so you have a rapport and you understand what the other person is trying to do with their story. But most of the time you're going on with the main people that are doing the role. So that's something you have to learn how to navigate through. That's why I said earlier how it really taught me how to listen, because I really had to listen to what the other people were saying in order to respond honestly. And then just traveling and living out of a suitcase and only having 2 suitcases, and, navigating in brand new cities and having no rehearsals, but having to be at the rehearsals with the creatives, so that you can make sure they get the information. And so then you hear the information being given to someone else, and then you are expected to have digested that and then to go on stage the next time and to have added that into your new show, which is a normal thing in this career. It's just even that much harder as a standby. And that's one thing that I really enjoyed about working with Mary Kate Morrissey, who was the lead Elphaba for the majority of my time on tour, and because she was a standby before, and so she understood all the same struggles and just the standby life. She understood it differently than anybody else in that entire company. Because it's a hard job. And I'm not really a part of the cast. I'm only a part of the cast if I'm on stage. And being isolated and being alone a lot teaches you a lot of things about yourself that maybe you don't even want to know. Like that we need to have human contact to survive as humans. But yeah, it was I think that it was a great adventure, is what I always call it. It was like a roller coaster. There's ups and downs, twists and turns, upside down, right side up. And getting, there's so many things to think about aside from just singing Defying Gravity, So I think it's best to just sort of stay focused, and it's hard to focus when you don't really understand the path that has been put in front of you, because you're adventuring on the path for the first time.
What did you learn the most about yourself during that alone time that you had being a standby on such an amazing production? What do you recall that has been, wow, Wicked taught me this about me, about Chelsea, and there's a different Chelsea now than the one that auditioned 7 times for Elsa for 7 years for Disney and getting no's, and then being told at Wicked, you're not ready for being an Elphaba standby. So what's the difference between that, and what did you learn the most about yourself?
I would say I learned a lot about how to interact with people. When you aren't the center focus, it's harder to interact with people that you don't see often or that you really only see on stage. And then forcing myself and putting myself out there to create connections with people so that I had a family to go to when I needed to on tour. Just because when I was younger, I still don't really like to invite myself anywhere. And it was something that my parents taught me, you never impose. You don't ever want to impose yourself onto someone else's plans. And so don't invite yourself because maybe they don't want to invite you. So wait and sit back until they ask you to come. And so it's hard for me, just as an adult now, to even invite myself and like, hey, where are you guys going?